Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Monday, December 16th. So, first day of the trading week, and a really nice move going into the open today. Gap up today. I'm looking at S&P futures on the chart, and we are extending. We've extended higher here. So, bull market continues. 52-week, new highs going out to today. So, really nice performance throughout the day. In terms of a trading day, if I had to complain a little bit, because I do run an all-day trading room, it's a little bit difficult to try to trade days like this. By the way, this is the way basically all gap up days work. Unless you get a little bit of follow through, which I think we did today. If we go ahead and if we look at the performance for the day, right? And here's the risk disclaimer. Of course, everything that we're talking about is for information purposes only. But if we look at the performance for the day, SPY still ran, 8 basis points for the day. I think we gave back a little bit right at the end of the day. Qs were the star of the day, finished up 1%, and did have a little bit of follow through. But again, the meat of the day, which always is the case, not every single day, but on average, it's in the overnight moves, right? So it is difficult. So my theme of the day is gap up day and walk away. That's for me, it's kind of the best thing, to basically do on days like this is to take your profits in trades that you've had on for swing. And then, if you want to try day trading a few things here and there, I always try to dial down my size if I'm going to do that. One of the things that I sent out earlier was, on days like this where we gap up, we start the day up 50, 60 basis points. I'm always selling. I'm always selling more than I'm buying. And again, I'll try some things because obviously, in the weekend member newsletter, a video that I send out, I've got a list of 20 names. So it's a little bit frustrating on that end to say, oh, you do all this work, and as soon as you get in, you're getting all kinds of alerts in your face when all these things are going through just as they open. So it's one of those things that how I normally handle that from the watch list that I send out is I'll come back to that throughout the week. And then we can kind of just build on that. But again, these are minor things. I'm complaining about a rally, which is really talking about micromanaging here. But today was a wonderful day, and that's why we kind of positioned for it. Even on Friday, one of the things that I did was I put on. And I went over this in the weekend video if you're a member. If you're not a member, you're missing out. But I went over, why I put on that SPX call spread on Friday, because we're in this grind 'em up type of mode. And even though that kind of like I had to force myself to put that call spread on, it worked, right? Because we're just in the environment that we're grinding higher. So I did take off that trade into strength today, so that was really nice. Just to kind of go through my trades. So again, you can always see these, but you could see I'm selling when we have strength, and getting out of some trades right throughout the session. But that's basically how these gap up days work, right? So in terms of so that's the theme of the day: gap up, walk away, go feed the ducks, as I like to say. That was kind of the plan for the day. And of course, I try to point out as much option activity where you can scalp and so forth for members. But, it was very, as you can see here, I've highlighted mostly the order flow, very chippy. I mean, we're talking about not stuff that I want to chase. There's a lot of stuff on the open. AMD calls some energy plays. LK was a name that, again, like if you can scalp these names, but these are not trades like, in my opinion, where, I mean, look at what LK did today, right? So if you're really good scalper, you could kind of get involved maybe in here and then, try to sell it on its highs. But that's for me, like those are going to be small trades where I'm chasing option flow. But that was mostly what we saw on the in the first hour of that day, like that kind of like mad rush to kind of own some things that may pop another 25 basis points or 50 basis points from where they opened. To me, that's not really my style. So I just kind of sit on my hands and try to take profits into that. It's something that you learn over time, if you've been trading for a while. Order flow like that, and I find it funny because I see a lot of people like, oh my god, it's crazy on the open. Yeah, well, that's just like if you're not new to trade, if you haven't been doing this for a while, that's just how it works, right? It's kind of the first half hour, first hour of the day when we gap up is kind of it's kind of for rookies, right? Not seasoned traders. Seasoned traders are selling into that strength, but that's just how the Twitter world works. Tyson saw some calls. They made an announcement that they're selling chicken to China. Uber, we've seen calls actually for not only today, but we saw them in pretty decent block size. We saw Uber calls last week. Well, there was a case study. There was a not a case study, a court announcement that they won. So they are trading up here a little bit, 30-50. The other thing, and this was a chart that I sent out earlier, it's not looking too bad here. It's really the first time it's above the 50-day moving average. You could target this VPOC if you really like Uber. The other thing is I think the CEO or the ex-CEO is done selling shares. So, that could be a reason. I use Lyft personally rather than Uber. I think they're a better company. I went long a little bit of Lyft today, right, into today's strength, and you could see from where it closed, I'm a little bit underwater in that trade, but it's doing something different here. Now it did this back here, and then it kind of fell apart. But I'm thinking that it might be a little bit different here, and maybe we could try to get this VPOC at least before it turns south again. But we don't have a 200-day moving average yet because it's too new. But we are back above the 50-day moving average. Just be mindful if it breaks back below the 50-day moving average. By the way, I've got a new version of the market webs on my computer, so it's a little bit more clear. And we've got these things called, venom lines that we have on the chart. So I'll be talking more. I'm kind of going through and testing this new version, but I think it's a lot easier to use and visually it's a little bit easier to kind of get your arms around. But here's the value area. We're above value, and we've got some targets to maybe hit if we can get above here as well. So what else for the day? In terms of performers, the oil and gas names, they were up pretty decently. They did come off the high. Again, a lot of things kind of came off the highs. But they were pretty hot early. Notice that the XOP is still in value. It has not gotten itself above value. I thought a few things were interesting today. Solar names like SEDG, which I just got rid of a last piece of a small trade I had on. Look at the volume in SEDG today. So again, you can kind of first look at the way I kind of handle this is I look at the sector first, and you can see that solar has made a nice recovery. It is above this VPOC, right? So normally once VPOCs are taken out like this, I'm taking targets, but that doesn't mean that it's going to revert back down. I would watch basically 30. Call it $30, because I am long the solar ETF in cash. But I had a position on an SEDG, and we did see some call buying in First Solar today. Also, funny, a VPOC taken out there. So they've got I don't like to establish positions on Virgin Point of Control takeouts. Again, that's where I usually like to be taking profits, so it kind of avoids me from. Oh, and that should go on. Should go on the wrap up here. First Solar should be in here because I did see First Solar calls a couple of times. Again, I would maybe classify them as momentum call buyers, right? They see the stock up $2 or 2%, and they're buying for momentum purposes. So that's that. Yeah. So names like SEDG very strong. Almost back to 52-week highs. So then you can kind of pick, what names you like within the group. Another group that broke out to new highs today. So again, this is what we call, and I'm sorry I'm using the same term over and over, but it is a rolling bull market. Agriculture names popped out today. In this ETF, you have a lot of international exposure. So like the top weight in this thing in the U.S. is Zoetis. That's a chart that was on the member watch list for this weekend. I mentioned Tyson. I think that's also in here, believe it or not. And a couple other names had some momentum today too, like CF Industries, Mosaic. Both saw like tiny option activity, which I wouldn't really say make too much of. to be honest. But obviously, this agriculture group is has broken out to 52 week highs. It looks even more cleaner when you look at a weekly chart, right? Pretty nice move out of this consolidation, taking the next leg higher. One thing that I wanted to mention in the video at this point, right? I talked about in the beginning that I'm always a net seller on gap up days. Notice where we are in terms of relative the RSI, the relative strength index. We are now into officially overbought territory, right? So the RSI. So anytime you get over 70, and especially in the indices, you want to watch out for that, right? Single stacks, they can stay overbought for a long time, and it's actually a good thing when they get overbought. But the indices, so you have a playbook from a couple weeks ago. The last time that we got overbought was here, right? And we stayed there for a couple days. Notice we're not as overbought as where we were at the end of November by Thanksgiving. But notice we got a little bit ahead of ourselves, and we came in. And how great was this buying opportunity down here? So I think that that's what you want to be. That's for me. I don't want to tell you what to do because I'm not giving you any advice. But for me, that's how I want to set up, right? I don't want to get over. This is not the right time to get over the tips of your skis with risk positioning, in my opinion. This is where, just as I've been saying probably 3 or 4 times, you want to be a net seller in here. Still, let some trades run, is what I'm trying to do. But don't get caught getting with us getting super overbought. Now, I hope with some of the trades that I have on that we get a little bit more overbought. That would be even more fun. With Nasdaq up 1.1%, and you can see the RSI for this one is 71. But just be mindful, right? Be mindful of like, maybe, if you normally take X amount of trades or, swing or day trade, maybe you want to dial that down a little bit because we're at that point. IWM, by the way, interesting, did not finish higher than where it opened. So still, this is kind of, splitting hairs a little bit because it still finished up almost 0.75% for the day, but just did not have that strength. And again, just always reinforces my view of not chasing price action on a gap up day. And there was this trade in Brinker that hit too. Kind of a messy looking chart in my opinion, below value. But down there, what else? What else was fun to talk about for today? Tesla, right? Tesla, I've been long. I actually sat through this through earnings, so this is really nice. Notice you have a new MACD crossover just as this thing breaks out. Got a few questions about this name. Hey, do we want to be shorting Tesla up here? Personally, because I know that it's gone all the way, ripped, right? False breakdown here, and it's basically back to where it's been before, which has been a tough place for it. But doesn't this look candle? Doesn't this weekly? I mean, this is, by the way, a weekly candle, so it's developing. But so far, we don't know how the week is going to end. But let's say that it ended here. Doesn't this look different than this one, where it stalled out? So it may, by the end of the week, look like one of these. We don't know yet. But I'm willing to kind of let it play out a little bit. Maybe I take one more target in my position. But, I think really interesting. What else? I also took off a little bit of semi exposure today. Applied materials. I didn't like how the candle looked at the end of the day, but this was a nice swing trade in the room. What else did I do for the day? I traded a little bit of MDB. I added a little bit of Paycom software today, which didn't do much. I could have hit a target. I didn't. Here's this SPX call spread that I mentioned. Out for almost a double in that one from Friday's close, which is a nice trade. Out of BHP, out of TMO, right? Just decided to get out of BHP. I got out of FCX Freeport McMoran last week. So I'm just kind of dialing back some of these things. I mentioned SEDG, better than a double on that one. All right, and so finally, this is the just the end of the video. Something that I talked about, like in the member weekend video, you know, take more profits when things get a bit too euphoric. So we're getting there with the S&P and Nasdaq now into overbought territory. control what you can control, your risk, right? We talked a bit about capitalize on overnight moves, right? Again, overnight moves which are greater than intraday moves. So again, we're doing this the appropriate way. All right, guys, and this is just I'm just sharing what the front page of what I put out in terms of the member video. By all means, come check us out, tribecatradegroup.com, if and provide some feedback. And I think you guys will like it if you haven't tried a membership yet. We've got a really nice cohesive group where I think we're crushing it together. So that being said, we'll end the video here. Have a great night, everybody, and see you back in the morning Tuesday.